Hi, class. My name's Matt Crowley, and I will be your instructor for IT 2750 Scripting Fundamentals for Cybersecurity for spring of 2020. A little background about me. I have taught at Tri-C previously, IT classes mostly. My background is in computer engineering. I received my bachelor's from Case in computer engineering, my MBA from Temple University, and I've been mostly focused in software development and cybersecurity for the past few years. Well, I guess it's been more than a few years. I run my own cybersecurity firm, Cypress Lake, out of Westlake here in Ohio. Also, I have my CISSP, so my Certified Information System Security Professional certification, as well as my Certified Cloud Security Professional certification. So hopefully I can be a good resource for you in this class as we go through not only learning Python, but applying Python to a number of common cybersecurity topics that should help you get a nice taste of what it's like in a number of different portions of the cybersecurity field. So let's spend the next few minutes walking through some of the course content that I've created for you for the class, how you should be using Blackboard, and some suggested approaches to the course. When you open up the Blackboard site, it's going to come to the announcements page. I haven't posted any announcements yet, so I'm still finishing up building the course as I'm making this video. So it's blank, but in the left-hand side, as you've seen with your other courses, you have Start Here, which has the syllabus, some information which we'll talk about around ethics, and this course introduction video announcements I will be using for any updates to the course. The calendar, which has a lot of the key dates that you need for assignments, and we'll talk about what assignments are due and when in a few minutes. Course content, which I hope is very rich and has enough detail for you to do well in each of the topics we cover each week, and discussion boards, which we will be using every week for the first 14 weeks of the class, mainly so you can work with each other in peer groups, talk about cybersecurity topics that are on point for the week, but nothing that's going to be too annoying or too burdensome so that it detracts from the rest of the course. So again, it's really about rounding out the overall view of what cybersecurity looks like, how to achieve results in the business world, and how to apply this knowledge in group settings and on an individual basis. All right, so let's jump into the course content and how everything is started. Well, we'll go start here first. We'll look at the start here section. So a couple items. The syllabus, this is our contract together. So I've posted this to the Blackboard site. My contact information, that's my cell phone. Feel free to give me a call. Best way to get a hold of me, though, is email because it can track our conversations. I can provide written, thoughtful responses, whereas if I'm on the spot on the phone, you're probably not going to get a good of quality response. But if it's an emergency, feel free to give me a call. Information about the courses in here, add drop dates, the credit hours, what to expect in terms of time you should be investing in the course. And a lot of it is your typical, I guess, boilerplate syllabus language. So let's scroll down. I encourage you, please read this. Again, this is our contract. Supporting objectives in the course. This is what we're trying to achieve. I am approaching it a little differently from previous 8-week courses in that we're going to cover a wide variety of cybersecurity topics. We're going to touch on them so you get some experience in how it actually applies back to Python. There are 2 books. One is the official required text. That's Introduction to Scripting by Brad Miller. Make sure that you purchase that book. And there's going to be another book that we're going to use for a bunch of the intro weeks that is Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. It's free. Don't go buy the book. It's Creative Commons license. I put the link in there. Each week that we're using that text, I'm going to throw the link up so it just takes you right to the chapter online. There's nothing you need to do. And if you'd like to print it off, weigh some trees, you can do that if you'd like. The next important thing that I want to highlight in the syllabus, specifically on our topics, not that the stuff isn't important, is the grading policy and what we're going to be doing. So there's going to be 4 ways of evaluating you in this course. The biggest one is going to be lab assignments. Now, I know you're going to say, well, we have 14 lab assignments, they're not that big, and it is worth 56% of your grade overall. But as you're going to see with week one, I'm going to guide you through it. I'm really not here to take away points for little things that you're doing wrong. It's about us working together, making sure that we understand the concepts, both in the Python language and the cybersecurity concepts we talk about each week. And it's really for you to learn. So the lab assignments, there's going to be one each week for the first 14 weeks. The last 2 weeks will be your course project. And what you'll be doing for your course project is building your own cybersecurity tool using Python. It sounds like a lot right now, but all the work you're going to be doing in your labs, a lot of that code, you can take it and put it in your project. And what you're going to do is build an application that will help you accomplish some cybersecurity task. And we'll talk more about that as the course goes on. Two other portions of your grade, discussion boards. So each week for the first 14 weeks, um, put it in your calendar every Wednesday and Friday. So every Wednesday is a 100-word post on relating a topic of the week to your learning of that topic, a news story, something interesting that would be really good for the group. And then on Friday, two 50-word replies to your peers in the class. And then lastly, weekly quizzes. There will be 14 of them. They're all due every Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And it is 5 questions. You can take the quiz unlimited times each week, but when it's due, it's due. And make sure you've mastered the concepts. Lab assignments, by the way, are also due at 11:59 p.m. each Sunday night. So again, a very kind of regimented schedule for the first 14 weeks. Just remember Wednesdays, Fridays, Sundays. Grading scale is the typical grading scale that you have here at Tri-C. So that is in there. And then the course schedule. So I've laid out these 16 weeks of the course based on the various topics. So in the first week, I'm going to go over the first week content in a few minutes. Set up an introduction to Python. Week one is going to be your hardest week, and mainly because you got to prep your machine. You have to get everything installed. If you haven't used GitHub Classroom or Git before, there's a little bit of learning curve. So I've kept the lab and the quiz and the discussion board super light so that you have time to make sure that your machine is in working order. And this week, as we talk about that content, feel free to bug me if you're having trouble. Week 2, we talk about flow control, so if statements, while loops, for loops, and functions or methods in Python. And the cybersecurity topic for that week will be generating safe passwords. In week 3, we're going to talk about lists and dictionaries and tuples in Python, how to form those, if you remember from your IT 1050 course, programming logic, how to build out those lists. And we're going to talk about cracking passwords. So we're going to use a zip file for our lab, and you're going to write an application to crack a password on a zip file. In week 4, we're going to dig into strings, and your lab for week 4 and the topic for week 4 will be crypt analysis. So you're going to create your own ciphers. We're not going to do super modern, elliptical curve encryption algorithms. We're just going to create some simple algorithms so you get an idea of what crypt analysis is like. Now, week 5 is going to be regular expressions. This might be a tough week because it's its own. If you're not familiar with regular expressions, it can be a tedious syntax, but it's super powerful. And we're going to talk about and do a lab on log parsing, so how to dig into computer logs using regular expressions. And you would use that on any cybersecurity analyst assignment. Week 6 will be file handling in Python. So we're going to talk about opening up and scanning and listing files and folders. We're going to dig in the lab in file system forensics. So how can you find certain things on target file systems? In week 7, we're going to do image processing and classes in Python. We're not going to go too deep into classes. You did have that experience in 1050, but we just want to touch on the format and the syntax of object-oriented programming in Python. And our cybersecurity topic for that week will be stag analysis, so how to hide secret messages in images using Python. And that hopefully will be fun. Week 8 is handling user input and dealing with command line parameters and arguments. And that lab is really geared towards setting you up for your final course project. So the template that you build in the Week 8 lab hopefully will be the basis for your course project. Spring break, the 9th through the 15th of March, nothing to do, have fun, don't think about the class. Week 9 and 10 are both going to be open source intelligence gathering, or OSINT. Basically, how do you dig up dirt on people, companies, all the good stuff of laying the groundwork for a cybersecurity project. Week 9 is focusing on web scraping. So we're going to set you up with a Google API account. If you don't have one already, go grab them, and you're going to search the internet for certain strings or certain values by listing web pages. And week 10, we're going to dig into that Google API further, and possibly other APIs. We'll see where we are in the course in Python, how to handle JSON. But in both of those weeks, it's really about gathering intelligence for a cybersecurity project. Week 11, 12, and 13 are going to focus on networking and sockets. So week 11, we're going to learn about exfiltration. So if you're on a cybersecurity project and you're testing a company, how do you secretly get your data out? So we're going to build a client server applications in Python to sneak data out of a project and a target. And in 12 is port scanning. We need to figure out, if we're simulating a penetration test for a company, what ports are open and what are potential targets that could be vulnerable. We're going to do that in week 12. Week 13, a word you know, phishing. We're going to create a fake login website that you could use as part of a tool or part of a project, so you can learn how phishing sites are built in terms of the professional cybersecurity world. And week 14 is our last kind of content week, where we're going to learn about shell capture. And while I'm going to teach you a lot about building tools in Python, sometimes someone's already written a really good tool, and maybe there's not an API for it, but there's a way to integrate that into Python, and you can use that for your course project too as well. Week 15 and week 16 will be you focused on building your cybersecurity tool. That course project, there will be no final exam, but what I want to see is two things: mastery of Python scripting to an intermediate level that we're going to learn in this course, as well as mastering basics of each of these cybersecurity topics. Again, it's more of a mile wide and an inch deep approach. I want you to get a big taste of Python, a big taste of a wide variety of cybersecurity topics. I'm really hoping this course is interesting, and what I want is feedback throughout the course. If there's something you like, dislike, things you wish were changed, we can pivot. I mean, the syllabus is something that we can work together if we want to make some changes. If there's a topic that everybody's really interested in, we can spend some time on it, but I want this to be an open dialogue for everyone, because again, we're all working together to get what we want out of this course, and everybody should have input in that. So again, please review the rest of the syllabus. If some of it's a dry read, but it's good, again, because this is really our contract for the next 16 weeks. Something super important as well as ethical considerations. Some of the stuff I'm going to teach you can get you in big trouble, especially with port scanning and exfiltration and phishing. The number one rule in professional cybersecurity and ethical hacking and systems defense is that you need to make sure that you have approval to be attacking or exploiting the systems that you're targeting. If the owner of that system doesn't give you approval, you don't have the right to do it. Now, I've pasted in, I'm a member of ISC Squared through my CISSP and CCSP certifications. And they have a really straightforward code of ethics, preamble and canons that just talk about, what are the end goals of the cybersecurity practice. And I want you to know that by sitting here in this class, you're the one out of 100 that is going to do this ethically and rightly. Everybody's morals might be different, but we need to make sure that we're following a common code of ethics in our practice. And if you have time, really dig into, there's a good, I guess it's a book. It's pretty long, but it digs into various issues in cybersecurity ethics, and it's by a couple professors at Santa Clara University, and I've included that link there as well. But remember, I guess number one thing, think before you act. If there's anything that seems questionable, talk to me. Use me as a resource. Use the other professors as a resource. We want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. You're setting yourself up for success. No question is a bad question, so always feel free to ask. There's some default online learning items in Blackboard. I've kept those in there. Points out some various tools that you can use in the Blackboard platform. So let's go into course content. Now, I have not finished all the course content yet. My promise to you is before you start each week, you have stuff due at Sunday at 11:59. I have stuff due at Sunday at 11:59. I will make sure that all the content is prepped for each week, the next week by that date and time. The reason why it might take me a little longer is I'm creating everything from scratch, including all of these videos. And you'll notice from week one as we go in there, there's a lot of videos. I want to make sure that you have enough information where you can pick and choose the content you want to consume. So let's go into week one, and I've broken down all the weeks in Blackboard. I'm looking at a student view in Blackboard right now, so feel free to peruse it on your own time. I'm going to go ahead and click week one, set up an introduction to Python. Now, in this, and every week's going to be structured very similarly. So I'm going to give you an introduction. And in this introduction, I'm going to give you some guidance on the approach for the week. We'll jump back to this in a second and talk about what you should do for week one. But let's go down here. So each week is going to have 3 sections: readings, videos, and graded assignments. So readings is your textbook readings for the week. I do have to say, Automate the Boring Stuff is a great book. The other book for this course is a bit dry, and a lot of it's off topic. So there will be pieces and parts of Introduction to Scripting I won't be using, but Automate the Boring Stuff is really great writing, really on point, and sticks to being concise. So that's your readings for the week. Each week also contains videos. So your videos for the week, I've ordered them. 01 will be this video, which is why it's not up yet. So for week one, I talk about how to install Python, how to install Visual Studio. And what I've done is I've created a fresh virtual machine. So I'm doing this all on my own as well, so you can see what it looks like from scratch. We talk about GitHub desktop installation, how to submit labs. This one is super important because we will be using GitHub Classroom. So if you're not familiar on how to get a GitHub account, set up a GitHub account, sign up for GitHub Classroom, watch this video, and it will show you how to submit your lab assignments. And just so you know, this is how you will be submitting lab assignments, is through GitHub Classroom. So please watch that video. And then we start idle expressions, primitive variables. We go into the content. So when you read your readings, go ahead and read your readings for the week and then watch the videos. Now, if you want to do that in reverse order, go ahead. I'm still working on one more video for this week. So there'll be a video 7, which will be Python script files. And then the last video every week will be guidance on the lab. And week 1, hint, I tell you a bunch of answers in this lab guidance video. So if you want to save some time on week 1 lab, make sure you watch this video. It will help you out greatly in your assignment. All right, so each week, kind of going back, I give you an outline of what I think should be the order of things done this week. You're welcome to not watch any of the videos, watch videos in a different order, but I provide this week, week 1's a little more detailed, but every week, the order of what I think makes sense in terms of a logical flow to your approach. Again, though, this is online learning. Make of it what you will. If you want to do things differently, if you want to look up other resources, go ahead. And then lastly, we have our graded assignments. So every week we have our discussion board. So here we have week one discussion board. It links into the discussion board content, so make sure you have that finished. The initial post by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. and two responses to your peers by Friday 11:59 p.m. The second item is a quiz. No, I am not big on exams, but I do think there's value in quizzes. So I do have quizzes, 5 questions every week, unlimited attempts. So I take your highest grade. So feel free to take it as many times as you want. And then the lab, most important thing about each lab is this GitHub Classroom assignment link. There'll be a different link for each week. Make sure you accept the assignment each week, and in the README file that is in the GitHub repository, I paste the same content right here. So lastly, I want to bring up the discussion boards just to show you. I already have this pre-populated. I've put up course questions before. I think course questions are valuable. I think there is value in asking questions of your peers. Every semester that I've taught, no one's really used it. And I think that's a bit of a shame. If someone wants to do it, I really encourage it. You can always ask me questions, but to share your questions with your peers, I think, is a great way to boost everyone in the course. A high tide rises all ships together. I think that it's valuable, and if you give it a chance, it might be worthwhile for the group. So I encourage you to use course questions. I've kept it up there. Like 14 discussion boards. Just make sure Wednesday, Friday. It's the same questions every week. You choose which question you want to answer, but keep it on the topic for the week. So you find an interesting news story, talk about it. Tell us about it. You struggled with something in the week. Talk about it. Talk about how you solved it. If you found some external resource you thought was really interesting, let us all in on the secret. So this is really not to be something horrible and something to dread each week. Just remember, I want you to kind of relay your feelings about the previous week every Wednesday at 11:59, and then comment on your peers every Friday. Last but not least, I want to talk about assignments. Assignments are due when assignments are due. I am not a late assignments person. Um, Quizzes are a great example where I give you unlimited attempts. You can do it all week long. If you're busy Sunday night, that's a scheduling issue. You're the master of your own schedule. And I highly encourage you, especially with all the content in this course, to make sure that you're following a calendar, that you're following strict guidelines for yourself that you've created to make sure that you're getting things on time. That's not to say if you don't have a medical issue that there can't be um, extended assignments, but I really want to push responsibility in terms of assignments. If you're turning things in late, you're only hurting yourself. It doesn't really affect me, except for the fact that I got to grade something else later. So, if you don't want to put in the time and effort, or you want to do things late, in the end, it's really all on you. So, if you have a legitimate excuse, a documented reason why you cannot turn something in on time, contact me. But please, make an attempt to get everything in. So, I'm going to be somewhat of a stickler on that. So thank you for joining this course. I really appreciate you being here. Again, if you have any questions, email me. If you want to set up office hours, I'm more than happy to do so. Shoot me an email. If you're having trouble and you need to walk through something, let me know. I have a busy travel schedule in general, so we got to plan this ahead of time. So don't contact me Sunday night at 11:45 p.m. and say, hey, I really need help with this. Plan in advance. If you're struggling, we'll work together. But I hope in the end we all get to learn something cool, that this helps you on your career journey, that you can pick something out of this course that you really enjoy and really like and really want to pursue, not only now, but going into the future as you look towards where you want your career to go and what you want to do in life. Uh, I look forward to everything, and we'll talk to you all soon.